Good evening, everyone. This series of talks, see, I think I have one more. Then next month I'm just going to be talking, I think, once. This September, then October, not too much yet because I'm in Europe. So not that many talks coming up, but I think there's one next week. There is, okay. Let's see. So this series of talks, which I decided to call Dharma Blues, is about understanding a certain side of the teaching and life, which is the like the negative side, and how that relates to the practice of Zen, because a lot of times we came to a practice like this, not always, but we came because we saw that perhaps we would like our life to be better, or the basic negativity of life moved us. That's what happened to the historical Buddha. I think that that depends on what age you come into the practice too. Like I remember when Karen and I first started practicing, and my friends at Zen Mountain Monastery, and we were all about 29, 30, and we heard that the basic teaching was that life was suffering. We really couldn't relate to that. I mean, for us, life was not suffering. It was, we had a pretty good time. We would like some things to be different and better, but that was not really very accurate as far as, at least how we were thinking about things. See? I think as you get older, and I think that when you're younger and you hear the phrase life is suffering, you don't really get what kind of suffering is being talked about, because it's not happening for you yet, very much, usually, not anyway. And it's not suffering like that life is painful every day, or that things are bad all the time. More, what becomes clear as you age is what I talked about last week a little bit, which is the transitoriness of life, that life is suffering because it changes, because you change, because you age, because you lose things, because you'll be lost, all of that. And because you'll be ill, and you get ill, and you see other people get ill, and you see many more bad things happen to people as they get older, generally. And perhaps then you understand the side that life is suffering in a different way. Question is, what does this all mean, kind of, to the practice of Zen? And that's what I'd like to address today. In the ox herding pictures, which I refer to in the title, it's the story of a person who goes looking for a bull, searching for the bull, the ox. And the ox is really, well, it's funny culturally too, you know, because really it's a cow, but it was in the East. And so we still say the ox, but it's just a cultural thing, and the ox sounds much more exotic than you went searching for a big cow. And the ox is supposed to be this big, beautiful, white thing, and also always like cultural context is going on. In China during this period, to own an ox was good. You know, it was like, think of an ox as a combination of an expensive car, and a power tool. That's what an ox was. And they were valuable. And so you were looking for this big, and white ox were very rare, so you were looking for this big, white, beautiful ox, which represents your true self. And the question that I'd like to kind of focus on today is sort of an advanced thing. Because in the beginning of the practice, we're just concerned with finding this ox, and we think that finding this ox, the true mind, the big mind, enlightenment, will be the answer to all our problems. And that's in the beginning. Now, I'm going to go a little bit further with that and look at, well, let's say you have a glimmer or some depth or some understanding about what the ox is. Why doesn't that solve all your problems? Which is, to me, a really important thing. In the Chinese say, selling dog's head as sheep flesh. I think that's the right phrase. Is that right, George? You probably know. Dog's head as sheep flesh? It's close. But what it means is to sell an inexpensive meat for something that's expensive. Yeah? Do you know?
No, that sounds very clever.
So, in other words, you were going to well, like in Mexico, you can sometimes buy iguana for chicken. And nobody cares because, as anybody knows, any indescribable meat tastes like chicken, or so we're told. I have found that to be completely untrue. Nothing tastes like chicken except chicken, and all of the other stuff tastes really gamey, like it should. But, so, like if you went to a store to buy chicken in a small town in Mexico, and they didn't have any chicken, they might sell you some iguana flesh for chicken. And this concept of the ox as the cure-all for everything can be that. It can be selling you iguana for chicken. And you just keep trying to get this chicken, and it doesn't hit the spot. And you say, what's wrong? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with the practice? Why not? Why isn't it working? I set out for enlightenment. I set out to find the big mind. I found it. And, you know, actually, to tell you the truth, I'm not feeling all that much better, which would be reasonable. And these kind of subjects is what I like to cover on these Monday nights because, frankly, they're not in the books. And so I think they need to be talked about. See, the books, the old books, going back to the Chinese, are just full of iguana, in a way. I mean, so many of the stories in the books are just about how somebody blew out a candle or heard a stone or did something like that, and then after that, and they had an understanding, and you assume they lived happily ever after. It's kind of like the movies where I always want to see, like, you see these kind of romance movies, Sleepless in Seattle, something like that. Silly movies, actually, but they have their charms. But I always want to see the 10 years later. Like, after it ends and everybody's magnificently happy, I would like to see a shot of the same couple 10 years later. Because life doesn't end there. I'm not saying life is bad after that, but life doesn't end there. Life doesn't end either when you hear a pebble hit a wall. It doesn't. Or when you go to a workshop or do a session, it doesn't end there. So what about afterwards?